Is this, was this Academy Awards? Anyway, feminist Conor McGregor.
Who the fuck is that guy?
It's a weird walk for a weird broad, and I don't like her.
It is, and it's really mean to put her next to Gal Gadot, who's absolutely stunning.
They did this before all this beef. The first line in the trailer is Snow White is like, "Can we just be nice?" And the queen, the evil queen, goes, "I don't remember you being so opinionated." That is literally in the movie. And it just goes to show that's so apropos for what's happening.
Can we show
right
this, Rob?
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
They look like they hate each other up there.
Yeah, I don't know if I could tell that. I can just tell that
there's worse stuff. They won't do press together. There's apparently beef right there. What's her friend screaming?
Wow.
And this bothered nobody was in there.
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live action Disney adaptation ever. Infusing messaging is not what we're up to, Iger said. We need to be entertaining. Comments were likely aimed at critics like Peltz, who accused Disney of leaning too far into woke storytelling at the expense of financial performance.
Disney has always been synonymous with magic, enchantment, and timeless storytelling, a brand that evokes nostalgia and wonder across generations. But lately, it feels like that signature Disney magic is starting to fade, replaced by controversy, missteps, and growing skepticism about the studio's ability to adapt its golden classics for modern audiences. Their latest attempt at reviving one of their most iconic tales, Snow White, turned into a disaster so colossal that it's making headlines, but not for the reasons anyone hoped. From explosive behind-the-scenes feuds between its two lead actresses to accusations of forced political messaging and poorly executed creative decisions, this isn't just your average box office flop. It's a cultural phenomenon gone horribly awry. The film's struggles have become emblematic of larger issues within Hollywood itself: clashing ideologies, over-reliance on identity politics, and an apparent disconnect from what made these stories beloved in the first place. So, let's peel back the curtain on one of the most chaotic productions in recent memory, exploring how something as simple as retelling a fairy tale spiraled into a perfect storm of corporate miscalculation, artistic failure, and public backlash. At the heart of this mess lies an explosive feud between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, two actresses who, on paper, seemed like the dream team for Disney's Snow White. While both are household names with massive fan bases, their partnership quickly soured behind the scenes, turning what should have been a fairy tale collaboration into a nightmare. Tensions began simmering early on, but things reached a boiling point during a planned commentary session for the film's digital release. According to insider reports, Rachel reportedly demanded that Gal refrain from voicing her support for Israel during any part of the commentary or promotional appearances, fearing that such remarks might trigger further controversy or overshadow the film itself. Gal, unsurprisingly, refused to stay silent, firmly arguing that no one, especially a co-star, has the right to censor her personal beliefs or dictate when and how she can express them. What started as a professional disagreement over creative control and political expression devolved into a full-blown shouting match, leaving Disney executives scrambling to pick up the pieces. The situation got so heated that staff had to intervene, effectively terminating the planned 2-hour commentary session before it even began. And folks, if your stars can't even sit in the same room without fighting, you've got bigger problems than bad reviews. This kind of dysfunction not only tarnishes the film's reputation but also raises serious questions about how Disney plans to manage its high-profile talent moving forward. After all, when the people supposed to bring magic to the screen are too busy clashing off-screen, it's the audience and the brand that ultimately pays the price. But the drama doesn't stop there. Long before the movie hit theaters, early test screenings revealed major issues that sent alarm bells ringing throughout Disney's production team. Viewers were quick to voice their dissatisfaction, describing the CGI as borderline disastrous, with some scenes looking so unnatural that they pulled audiences completely out of the story. The direction, too, was labeled as uninspired and lacking the magic one would expect from a Disney production. In a desperate attempt to salvage what they could, Disney made the controversial decision to order last-minute reshoots, even amidst an industry strike, which only added fuel to the fire. These reshoots were intended to address some of the most glaring flaws, but insiders suggest that the changes were more like slapping a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Despite pouring additional time and resources into the project, critics still tore the film apart when it finally premiered. It's almost ironic that a studio once celebrated for its groundbreaking animation and ability to bring fantastical worlds to life now struggles to deliver convincing visuals in live action. This disconnect between expectation and execution has left many wondering if Disney has lost sight of what made its classic films so beloved in the first place. And then came the box office numbers, or lack thereof. Despite Disney's best efforts, Snow White opened to a dismal $43 million domestically, far below projections of $48 to $58 million. Internationally, it fared no better, with overseas markets failing to generate the kind of revenue needed to offset the film's massive budget. Analysts estimate the film could cost Disney hundreds of millions in losses, turning what was supposed to be a blockbuster into a financial catastrophe. For context, this isn't just a failure. It's one of the worst-performing Disney remakes in years. The staggering shortfall has left industry insiders questioning whether the studio miscalculated audience interest or if the controversies surrounding the film played a larger role in deterring viewers. With production costs reportedly soaring due to reshoots and heavy post-production tweaks, even ancillary revenue streams like merchandise and theme park tie-ins may not be enough to soften the blow. This level of financial misstep is unprecedented for Disney, a studio that has long relied on its live-action remakes as reliable cash cows. Now, executives are scrambling to figure out how to prevent similar disasters in the future, but the shadow of Snow White looms large over the company's once unshakable reputation for delivering crowd-pleasing hits. It's a sobering reminder that even the most iconic stories can falter when handled without care, or when overshadowed by behind-the-scenes drama. But perhaps the most damning aspect of this debacle is the sheer level of audience backlash. Fans didn't hold back. They mocked everything from the redesigned dwarves to the baffling climax, leaving no stone unturned in their critique. Social media became a battleground where every frame of the movie was dissected and ridiculed. The redesigned dwarves, once beloved characters, were now seen as unrecognizable caricatures that failed to evoke any nostalgia or charm. Even the trailers, which are typically crafted to generate excitement, were mercilessly ratioed online. Fans pounced on them within minutes of release, tearing apart every detail with scathing comments and memes. Critics joined in, calling out the clumsy integration of modern themes into what many considered a sacred classic. They accused Disney of prioritizing ideology over storytelling, forcing messages into the narrative that felt unnatural and forced. It wasn't just about poor execution. It was about betraying the essence of the story fans had cherished for decades. When your own fanbase turns against you, flooding platforms with criticism and mockery, you know you've made some serious mistakes. This kind of widespread rejection doesn't happen often, but when it does, it signals a fundamental disconnect between creators and audiences, a divide that can take years to repair. So, where does this leave everyone involved? For Rachel Zegler, this could spell significant trouble ahead. Once hailed as a rising star with boundless potential, she's now facing mounting questions about her suitability for future high-profile blockbusters. The controversies surrounding her on-set behavior, her clashes with Gal Gadot, and her insistence on controlling aspects of the film's publicity have painted her in a negative light that may linger long after this project fades from memory. Industry insiders are already speculating whether casting directors might hesitate to attach her name to major productions, fearing similar fallout. Her refusal, or inability, to compartmentalize her personal politics during such a critical promotional period has raised eyebrows not just among fans but also within Hollywood circles. It's a harsh lesson for any young actor. In an industry driven by optics, perception can sometimes outweigh talent. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot walks away relatively unscathed, thanks largely to her established A-list status and global recognition as Wonder Woman. While she hasn't emerged entirely free of controversy, her decision to voice support for Israel amid escalating tensions certainly drew criticism. It's clear that her star power remains intact. Fans who admire her work in action-packed blockbusters seem willing to overlook these recent disputes, viewing them more as collateral damage from working on a troubled production than as a reflection of her professionalism. Still, there are hints that her relationship with Disney as a corporate entity might be strained moving forward. Collaborating with a studio known for tightly managing its public image isn't easy when you're someone who refuses to shy away from expressing your beliefs, no matter how polarizing they may be. But for Disney, the stakes couldn't be higher. This debacle raises serious questions about their approach to casting politically outspoken actors and their strategy for modernizing beloved classics. Will they rethink their process entirely, opting for safer choices in the future? Or will they double down on their attempts to infuse classic tales with contemporary themes, even at the risk of alienating their core audience? The failure of Snow White suggests that audiences aren't necessarily opposed to updates or reinterpretations, but they do expect those changes to feel organic, thoughtful, and respectful of the source material. Instead, what many viewers saw here was a clumsy attempt to force modern ideologies into a story that didn't naturally accommodate them, resulting in a product that felt disjointed and tone-deaf. Now, the pressure is on Disney to strike a delicate balance between innovation and nostalgia, a task that seems harder than ever given the current cultural climate. Moreover, this incident underscores the challenges studios face when trying to manage personalities as much as projects. Casting decisions are no longer just about finding the right fit for a role, they're also about predicting how an actor's public persona might interact with the film's messaging and reception. In today's hyper-connected world, every tweet, interview, and behind-the-scenes anecdote can shape public perception before the movie even hits theaters. For Disney, whose brand relies heavily on curated positivity and family-friendly appeal, navigating this new reality requires a level of foresight and adaptability that feels increasingly difficult to achieve. Whether they learn from this misstep or repeat it in future endeavors remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the lessons of Snow White will reverberate throughout Hollywood for years to come. In the end, Snow White serves as a stark reminder that even the biggest brands can stumble if they lose sight of what truly matters: great storytelling, cohesive teamwork, and respect for the source material. Disney didn't just create a movie here. They took on a legacy, one that has been cherished by millions for nearly a century. And yet, somewhere along the way, things went awry. Whether it was the strained relationship between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, the rushed production decisions, or the attempt to force modern ideologies into a classic fairy tale, the result feels less like a revival and more like a cautionary tale. As we watch this saga unfold, one thing is abundantly clear: Hollywood's golden era wasn't built on divisive politics or half-baked reimaginings. It thrived because it gave audiences something timeless, something universal. These were stories that transcended generations, cultures, and personal beliefs. They didn't need to be reinvented every time they hit the screen. Instead, they relied on their ability to evoke wonder, emotion, and connection. But today, it seems like some studios are so focused on ticking boxes or making statements that they forget why these tales became iconic in the first place. The failure of Snow White isn't just about poor box office numbers or bad reviews. It's symbolic of a larger issue facing Hollywood. Audiences aren't rejecting progress or diversity. They're rejecting forced narratives that don't resonate. They're tired of seeing beloved properties treated as experiments rather than treasures. For Disney, this misstep raises important questions about how much creative freedom should be given to reinterpretation versus honoring tradition. Is there room for both? Absolutely. But finding that balance requires vision, sensitivity, and a deep understanding of what makes these stories endure. So tell me, do you think Disney can recover from this misstep? Can they learn from this experience and return to the principles that made them a household name? Or will they continue down this path, risking further alienation of their core audience? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear where you stand on all of this. Do you believe Disney still has the magic touch, or has the spark faded for good? And before you go, Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's wildest controversies. If you enjoyed this breakdown, share it with a friend who loves dissecting the drama behind the scenes. These conversations only work when we engage with each other, so let's keep the dialogue going. Until next time, take care, and remember, in Hollywood, sometimes the most gripping drama doesn't happen on the screen, but behind closed doors.